A warm smile does not always indicate a place of safety for your heart. Some energies present themselves as companions, yet they are merely reflections of deep inner turmoil. There comes a moment on our journey when those we hold close begin to show their true nature. This revelation does not come through words, but through the subtle currents of their presence, their patterns of action, and the quiet response of your own spirit when they are near. This is not a matter of unseen forces. It is about understanding the flow of life energy that moves through our daily connections. You have sensed it, that dense feeling in the air, the conversations that leave you feeling hollow, the ripple of unease that remains long after they are gone. These are more than just difficult behaviors. They can be profound signals of a deep misalignment. If you have ever wondered, why do I feel less like myself around this person? Then you may already be in the presence of this dynamic. In this exploration, we are not speaking of external shadows, but of the unresolved patterns that can dwell within people, patterns that create confusion and disrupt harmony from the inside. Today, I will share 10 clear observations to help you recognize these disruptive energies in those around you before they disturb more than just your inner quiet. There are individuals in your life who can unsettle your spirit without a single harsh word or action. Simply sharing a space with them can feel like pouring your life force into a vessel with no bottom. And there seems to be no logical reason for it. You enter a room with a calm mind, perhaps even feeling joyful, but after time in their presence, your vitality has vanished. Your inner light feels dimmer, and your tranquility is disturbed. You may try to explain it away. Perhaps they were having a challenging day. Perhaps you are being overly sensitive. Yet, in your quietest moments, your inner knowing senses that something is out of balance. These are the individuals who rarely seem to add to your well-being, but always require something from you: your focus, your time, your empathy, your energy. The conversation always flows towards their difficulties, their turmoil, their unresolved issues. You can become a space for their emotional burdens without ever having agreed to it. They release their inner storm into your field and leave you to find stillness again. This is more than just emotional fatigue. It is a spiritual drain. Your eyes may not perceive it, but your core can feel it. These are the energies that may wear the face of someone you care for, yet underneath, a deep emptiness draws upon the light within you. It is a form of energetic imbalance, and often they are not conscious of this pattern. But its effect on you is no less real. It is time to stop questioning your own sensitivity and begin to ask why your spirit consistently sounds an alarm. That feeling is not a weakness, it is a guide. Your life energy is your most precious resource, and not every interaction nurtures it. Begin to pay attention to how you feel after each connection. Do you feel more expansive or contracted, uplifted or unsettled, whole or fragmented? A disruptive presence does not always arrive with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it arrives with a pleasant smile, a soft voice, and calls you a friend. But if every interaction leaves you feeling more distant from your own center, your path, or your inner strength, it is time to recognize this is not just a challenging relationship. It is a fundamental energetic mismatch. You do not need to confront them, argue with them, or attempt to change them. You simply need to step back and reclaim your own flow. Your spirit already understands what your mind tries to rationalize. Not every person you meet is meant to nurture your journey. Some may unconsciously hinder it. Guard your inner peace. Conserve your energy. Your well-being depends on it. They distort the flow of truth to subtly create separation. Their approach is skillful and strategic, like a quiet vine that grows around your connections until it restricts their natural harmony. These individuals do not often tell direct falsehoods, as that would be too apparent. Instead, they bend reality just enough to plant a seed of doubt in your mind and hesitation in your heart. They work with partial truths, words taken out of context, and emotionally shaded narratives that portray others in a negative light, all while positioning themselves as the calm observer or devoted friend. Their primary tool is insinuation. I hesitate to say anything, but, or perhaps it is wise to be cautious around them. Their energy feels unclear. These are small ripples designed to create fractures in your trust, to gently push you away from those who genuinely support you, and to make them your sole point of reference. Once you begin to drift from those who protect your spirit, you become more impressionable, more dependent, and easier to influence. This is how disharmony operates, not through loud conflict, but through quiet confusion. They gently stir the waters to provoke emotional responses, and then stand back as the turbulence unfolds, feigning innocence. They understand that if they can disturb your foundation, your network of support, your trusted circle, your clarity, they can shape your perception of the world. You might begin to question the intentions of genuinely kind people, to value gossip over observable facts, and to slowly adopt their skewed perspective as your own. That is a deep disturbance of the spirit disguised as simple conversation. The most challenging part: these individuals often appear exceptionally loyal, even loving. They assure you they are on your side, that they are just being sincere and transparent. But their true function is to introduce a subtle poison between you and your peace. You may start to wonder why you feel more guarded, why you are second, guessing bonds that once felt so strong, and why your world seems to hold more tension, until you trace it back to the one person who is the common factor in every frayed connection. That is not by chance. It is a pattern of disruption. Unsettling energies do not always shout. They whisper, they obscure, they charm, and they divide. When someone consistently fosters division but never resolution, and constantly points out the flaws in others but never looks within, understand this: they are not trying to protect you. They are attempting to isolate you. And in isolation, your clarity is compromised. See this pattern for what it is. Protect your connections and, most importantly, guard your mind from the distortions that come dressed as care. They find comfort in your moments of struggle, not your moments of strength. And if you are not observing closely, you might mistake this manufactured concern for genuine support. These are the people who draw near when you feel lost, but who become distant when you begin to find your way. They are present to offer solace when you have stumbled, when your heart is heavy, when your path seems uncertain. But the moment you start to stand taller, to see with clarity, to walk with newfound confidence, the energy between you changes. Suddenly, they seem aloof. Their words carry a hint of sarcasm, or they may even express a subtle resentment. Why is this? Because your inner strength challenges their perception of themselves. Your power illuminates their own lack of it. For as long as you are navigating difficulty, they feel helpful, significant, and even superior. But when you embody your own strength, they feel diminished. Thus, they prefer you in a state of dependence, not independence, in a state of seeking, not knowing. And that is the profound insight: their attachment is not to you, but to the version of you that affirms their own position. They are drawn to your perceived brokenness because it does not require them to grow. They are attached to the you that questions your own value, that looks to them for validation, that remains in a cycle of seeking help. But when you begin to establish clear boundaries, to honor your own needs, to expand your vision, and to walk your path with purpose, their discomfort becomes visible. They might veil their envy with humor, making light of your aspirations, calling your growth a passing phase, or framing your dreams as impractical. They might say, stay grounded, not from a place of wisdom, but as a subtle suggestion to return to a level where they feel at ease. In their hearts, they do not wish for you to flourish unless your success still keeps you in their shadow. And this is how you can discern a deep energetic pattern. An energy that is unsettled by light, that feeds on uncertainty, and that is comfortable with stagnation as long as it keeps you connected to them. Observe how people respond not to your pain, but to your healing. Anyone who feels more drawn to your weakness than your growth is not a true companion. They are a spiritual weight. Disruption does not always come as a storm. Sometimes it comes as a comfortable shelter in your brokenness. But comfort that keeps you from healing is not kindness, it is control. Stop mistaking their need for your loyalty. Pay attention to who nurtures your power, not just your pain. Because true connection does not fear your strength, it draws inspiration from it. They repeatedly disregard your boundaries, not from a lack of understanding, but from a belief that your personal space is accessible to them at will. These are the individuals who perceive your no as the beginning of a discussion. You express a need for quiet, and they fill the space with noise. You explain you are unavailable, and they insist on your attention. You create a limit, and they view it as an obstacle to overcome. This is not a failure to communicate, it is a spiritual imposition. When someone consistently ignores the lines you have drawn to guard your tranquility, your time and your energy, they are revealing a deeper pattern. They do not honor your autonomy. They value their access to you, and access without respect becomes a form of subtle consumption. These individuals move with an energy of entitlement. They feel they have a right to your time, your presence, your focus, and your emotional capacity. Even when you have clearly stated that your reserves are low, they mask their intrusions as affection or care. But at its heart, it is about maintaining a connection that serves them. Boundaries are a threat to those who seek influence over you. They cannot sway what they cannot reach. So they test your resolve, pushing gently at first, waiting for you to yield as you may have in the past. They may use guilt to make you question your own right to inner peace. They might say, "You seem so distant," or "You have changed," when what has truly changed is your willingness to let them draw from your well without permission. Here is the truth about boundaries. They do not just protect your peace. They reveal who never respected it. Anyone who meets your limits with frustration, passive resistance, or emotional distance is showing you that their bond with you was based on your availability, not on mutual regard. When you try to stand in your own energetic sovereignty, they feel it as a personal rejection, because in their world, your accessibility is your primary value. But understand this with clarity: you do not owe anyone unrestricted entry into your life, especially those who walk across your spirit to get what they want. A disruptive energy does not always arrive with force. Sometimes it arrives with persistence. It wears you down not with anger, but with the steady erosion of your boundaries, until you feel you have no strength left to say no. But your inner quiet is sacred. Your time is a finite gift. Your presence is a privilege. Begin to treat your boundaries as the doorway to your inner temple. Not everyone is meant to enter, and those who try to force their way in are not guests. They are intruders. Guard your gateway. They absorb your qualities and then use that reflection to turn others against you. This is a deliberate pattern, veiled in admiration, but sourced from a place of deep disruption. These are the individuals who observe you closely, your way of speaking, your habits, your inner light, and they begin to replicate it with such precision that you may initially perceive it as connection. They use your phrases, they echo your insights, they even adopt your way of being in the world. And you might feel a sense of kinship, thinking, "We are so much alike." But something far more complex is unfolding. They are trying on your essence as if it were a garment, not to honor you, but because they wish to possess the light you radiate, and eventually to replace you with their reflection. It begins with subtleties. They repeat your ideas as their own. They share stories that mirror yours. And while you are trying to understand this echo, they are already operating in the background, planting quiet doubts in the minds of others and casting a shadow over your integrity. They may say things like, "I am not sure they are as authentic as they appear," or lately, their energy feels different, slowly poisoning the ground of your relationships. The most profound distortion. They use the version of you they have copied as the standard of authenticity, and then frame you as the imitation. This is more than a simple betrayal. It is an energetic theft with a spiritual purpose. These are not just insecure people seeking a role model. They are vessels for an energy that covets your light, but has no connection to its own source. That energy mimics because it cannot create. It takes because it feels fundamentally empty. When it senses it cannot outshine you through its own nature, it attempts to dim your light through misrepresentation. Soon, you may notice people in your life acting differently, pulling away, or believing things about you that are untrue. And you are left wondering what has shifted. The source is often one who has used your own light to wage a quiet war against you. This is deep psychological imbalance wrapped in false flattery. It is not just a difficult person. It is a parasitic energy that uses your radiance to build its own persona and then turns that borrowed light back upon you. If these patterns resonate with the quiet truth within you, perhaps you are on a path of deeper awareness. This journey is one we walk together, even in solitude. Consider joining our community to explore these insights further. By subscribing, you support this space of shared learning and help others find their way back to their own center. A simple like or a share can send a ripple of clarity out into the world. The only way to find balance is to stand firmly in your own being and remain rooted in your truth, and allow the imitation to reveal itself over time. A reflection cannot last forever in the presence of the source. Protect your own essence, for it is the very core of your journey. They use guilt as a rope to keep you tethered to them. Not love, not respect, but guilt. It is a spiritual restraint woven from emotional manipulation, intended to keep you bound to them, long after the connection has ceased to be nurturing. These individuals are not concerned with whether the relationship is healthy, mutual, or uplifting. They are only concerned that you remain close enough for them to continue drawing from your resources, your time, your energy, your loyalty. The moment they feel you awakening, pulling away, or creating healthy distance, they do not reflect or change. They activate guilt. They will bring up their past generosities, how much they depend on you, or how wounded they would be if you were to move on. They will say things like, "So, this is how you leave me," or "After all I have done for you." Knowing those words touch your most gentle place, your compassion. They turn your own kindness into a cage, convincing you that to leave them is to be cruel, even when staying means you are being cruel to yourself. You feel trapped, not by love in its true form, but by the fear of being seen as uncaring. But let this be clear, guilt is not an indicator of love. It is a tool of control used by those who benefit from your self-abandonment. A disruptive energy will never say, "Thank you," but it will always ask, "How could you?" These patterns attach to your sense of obligation and use it to drain your spirit, drop by drop, until you are exhausted from trying to carry what was never yours to hold. They do not want your healing. They want your proximity. They do not want partnership. They want possession. They know that as long as you feel guilty for leaving, you will remain even as your own spirit diminishes. But authentic love does not leverage guilt. It empowers, it elevates, it liberates. Guilt binds you to people who resist their own growth, who see your evolution as a danger to their influence. It is not your duty to make yourself smaller so they can feel comfortable. It is not your purpose to sacrifice your peace to uphold a false sense of duty. You are not here to rescue them, and they are not your burden. Emotional leverage is a form of spiritual harm, and once you see it, you are given a choice: remain in the cage they have built with your own guilt, or step into the freedom of reclaiming your soul. You owe no one permanent access to your life, especially those who only appear when you feel too guilty to walk away. Release the guilt and allow yourself to grow. They evoke a deep, unfounded sense of anxiety, not from their words, but from what your spirit perceives just beneath the surface of their presence. You could be sharing a quiet room with them, and your heart begins to beat faster. A knot forms in your stomach. Your thoughts become scattered, and you cannot find a reason for it because nothing outwardly disruptive is occurring. They may be smiling or speaking gently, yet your spirit knows something is not aligned. That is not a sign of instability. It is a signal from your inner compass. Your body is responding to an unseen vibration, a current that disturbs your inner calm without an obvious cause. This type of unease is not born from conflict. It is born from a disharmony with an energy that is chaotic, untruthful, or draining. You may be tempted to dismiss it, to blame yourself, or to call it over, analyzing. But your body holds a wisdom that your mind may not yet grasp. It knows when it is in the presence of a spiritually unsettling force. These individuals often carry a heavy, turbulent inner world, concealed by a veneer of charm or familiarity. They say what is expected, but their energetic field is resonant with agitation, envy, or resentment, and you perceive it even if you cannot articulate it. You may leave every interaction with them questioning yourself, rethinking your decisions, or feeling that your own inner light has been dimmed. And that is the sign that they have not just touched your mind, they have disturbed your spirit. Anxiety is often the first internal alarm that you are in the presence of an energy that is not harmonious with your own. If you consistently feel smaller, more confused, or less grounded around someone, that is not a healthy connection. It is a spiritual guidance system telling you to retreat. These are the people who appear harmless externally, but who carry unresolved shadows that seek a foothold in others. When you feel this form of anxiety, do not ignore it. Observe it with curiosity. Who are you with? What shifts within you when they speak, when they look at you, when they occupy your space? Your inner peace does not deceive you, and neither does this tension. Sometimes your anxiety is not a disorder, it is a message. It is your spirit communicating. This space is not for you. When your spirit speaks, it is wise to listen. Protecting your inner state is not a passive act. It is a fundamental practice. Never apologize for removing yourself from what your spirit recognizes as a disturbance, even when nothing on the surface seems out of place. The unseen world often speaks the loudest. They seem amused by your sorrows and sorrowful during your moments of joy, because your pain validates their position and your growth makes them feel left behind. These are the individuals who present themselves as being close, who may be called friends or family. But the reality is they are only at ease when you are in a place of emotional or mental dependency. When you are in a period of struggle, they appear subtly entertained or dismissive. They may not show overt pleasure, but there is a quiet satisfaction in their demeanor, a casualness about your suffering, as if your challenges reinforce their own stability. Their comfort is superficial, their sympathy shallow. But observe what happens when your circumstances change, when healing enters your life, when your inner light returns, when opportunities begin to flow to you. Suddenly, they become withdrawn, quiet, or even subtly critical. They may withhold support, minimize your accomplishments, or find ways to redirect the focus onto themselves. You might hear comments like, "You are changing," or "Do not lose sight of who you are." Worse, they may try to reframe your joy as overconfidence to soothe their own unease. These are not merely envious people. They are spiritual counterweights, dressed in the guise of familiarity. Your ascent illuminates their own stagnation. Your light makes their own shadows feel darker. The issue is not that you are becoming too much. It is that you are doing what they have not yet found the courage or discipline to do for themselves. Deep down, their reaction is not about you. It is about what you represent, the potential for growth and healing that refuses to remain dormant. When you are down, they do not offer a hand to lift you. They watch from the side, because your struggle is a form of passive affirmation for them. But when you rise, when you radiate, when you finally embody your worth, they feel abandoned by the version of you that kept them comfortable. That is not a loving connection. It is an energetic dependency. These people were never meant to accompany you into your becoming. They were there to test whether you would remain stagnant to accommodate them. Once you outgrow the role that served their ego, they do not mourn your absence, they mourn their loss of influence. Pay attention to who celebrates when you succeed and who quietly fades away. True connection does not find satisfaction in your pain or sorrow in your progress. It honors your healing and stands beside your strength, not in its shadow. Allow those who cannot bear your light to remain in the shade, where they feel most comfortable. They are deeply uncomfortable with conversations about truth, inner light, or universal harmony. This is not always expressed with words, but with a palpable resistance that intensifies whenever a sense of sacredness enters the space. These are the individuals who seem perfectly at ease until you begin to speak from a place of clarity, until you reference a higher principle, until your words carry a vibration that illuminates what they keep hidden in their own shadows. They may dismiss prayer, show impatience with discussions of purpose, and grow restless when the topic turns to inner work or integrity. This is not because they lack understanding, but because their spirit is in a state of discord with these things. The light you hold brings awareness to the darkness they have become accustomed to. It makes them feel exposed in ways they actively avoid. They will say things like, "Let's not get too philosophical," or "Not everything has to be so serious," because for them, such truths are not a comfort, they are a confrontation. Truth is unsettling for a life built on illusion. Light is disturbing for one who operates in manipulation. You will notice they become irritable when you speak with spiritual conviction. They will change the topic, use sarcasm, or suggest you are being too earnest or absolute, when in reality, they cannot tolerate the reflection of their own inner state. The harmony in your own life applies a quiet pressure to the disharmony they refuse to address in theirs. And so they resist, not always with open opposition, but with avoidance, with mockery, with subtle remarks designed to extinguish your spirit. They do not seek healing. They seek comfort. They do not want transformation. They want acceptance of their dysfunction, their attachments, the disruptive energies that move through them unchecked. But when truth is spoken clearly, when the atmosphere shifts towards a higher awareness, they become agitated. They conceal it with logic or feign open-mindedness. But internally, they are resisting. Because truth does not need to argue, it simply illuminates. What you are witnessing is not just a difference in personality. It is a spirit that knows it cannot thrive in the presence of genuine light. Pay attention to who creates distance as your own inner work deepens. Observe who uses mockery when you speak of what is sacred to you. Their reaction is not incidental. It is energetic. Shadow energies are repelled by light, and anyone who resists truth, who turns away from clarity, who is unsettled by the presence of a calm spirit, is already dwelling in a turbulence they have chosen to call home. Walk your path boldly anyway. Speak your truth with compassion anyway. Light does not require permission to shine. It simply is. They always leave you feeling more distant from your own core. Not in an instant, not in an obvious way, but through a gradual wearing down of your identity, your confidence, and your inner stillness. These are the individuals whose presence may feel like connection, but who slowly chip away at the foundation of who you are until you begin to question your own intuition, quiet your own voice, and make yourself smaller to accommodate their energy. After every time spent with them, you walk away feeling more uncertain, more tired, more disconnected from your own truth. They do not just take your energy, they cloud your inner mirror. Initially, it may seem like simple influence. Their views begin to shape your own. Their wants begin to eclipse your needs. But with time, you notice you are changing, not into a more authentic version of yourself, but into someone more manageable for them. And this change is never to your benefit. Your dreams feel less important. Your values feel more flexible. Your voice becomes a whisper. They sow seeds of doubt about your journey, your worth, your vision, all under the pretense of supporting you. They call it being realistic or caring about you. But the actual effect is to pull you away from the internal compass that once guided you with certainty. These people carry an energy that thrives in disorientation. They subtly teach you that your true self is too much, too sensitive, too driven, too peaceful, until you start to edit your own soul to maintain the connection. But that is not harmony, it is self-suppression, and the price is immense. The longer you remain tied to people who subtract from your being, the harder it is to see yourself clearly. You may begin asking for permission to be who you have always been. This is how disruptive energies work. They do not always confront you with force. Sometimes they diminish you with a slow, quiet disconnection. They help you forget your voice, your power, your inner fire. When you try to reclaim it, they may accuse you of being selfish or distant. But growth is not an act of betrayal, and returning to yourself is not an abandonment of others. It is a remembrance of your path. Pay attention to who leaves you feeling adrift, who makes you question the clarity you once held. The people who genuinely nurture you will call you back to yourself, not lead you away from it. They will water the garden of your soul, not let it go dry. If someone consistently leaves you emptier than when they arrived, understand this: their effect is not accidental. They are committed, consciously or not, to keeping you from your center. It is time to return home to your own spirit. Reclaim your identity. Realign with your truth. This journey of awareness is a daily practice. If you are committed to cultivating a life of clarity and inner peace, subscribe to continue this journey with us. Your presence here is a commitment to your own path and allows this work to reach all who are seeking it.